Welcome back. We're talking about some of the bigger plays of this game and players of this game. Colin, I look at a guy like James Pierre. You know, they brought in Justin Lane. He was a draft pick. This guy was undrafted. This guy had to earn his spot. This guy now is making plays. He got burned last week. He got burned this week. They knew that he was going to go back to his side of the field. He came up with some big plays. That's pretty encouraging given the fact they have a lot of injuries, especially to Cam Sutton.
Yeah, James Pierre hasn't had a choice but to grow in game action. I mean, he doesn't grow on the practice field. He's got to grow in game. I thought James Pierre made it so that James Pierre had to make up for a James Pierre mistake, and James Pierre did. But for me, Cam Hayward was the best player on the football field, I thought, other than Najee Harris probably. Every single thing that they wanted to do on offense, that being the opponent, that they wanted to do on offense, Denver, they had to account for where Cam Hayward was, where he lined up pre-snap, and then adjust to that. At least that's what it looked like to me. Cam Hayward upended every single thing, every offensive game plan they had, and everything that they wanted to do.
I guess it's me, Jeff. I was saying, I agree with you on that, Colin, on Cam Hayward. I mean, to get off on a tangent a little bit here, I mean, this guy has to seriously be considered for a potential Hall of Famer when his career is over. That's how good his last 4 or 5 years are. But as for James Pierre, I don't blame anything on him. Why in the world do you have your most inexperienced cornerback, man coverage, with less than 7 minutes left in the game, watching the opposing team's #1 receiver when you're just trying to keep everything in front of you? No safety help. That happens too many times. It's happened at least twice with James Pierre. That's a coaching decision there. You need to have some help over the top for that guy, especially where's he at? Like 200 career snaps? Come on.
Right.
I thought James Pierre, listen, this is a guy we've talked about in camp, a guy who's improved, guy that they like, who may have been the starting corner over Cam Sutton, and they were going to move Sutton into the slot because they were so high on James Pierre. I love the fact that he's getting the opportunities and that he's learning from them. He talked about listening to the coaches and listening to Joe Hayden, so he knew where to be, and he knew they were going to come at him, and he was ready for the challenge. He answered it.
Well, he also saved 4 points when he tracked.
That was the best play of the game.
Made a touchdown, a field goal, and he hustled back. You don't give points for hustling; it's what you're supposed to do. But there are some people that would have just dogged it and given up on that play. And for him to hawk somebody down and pull him down inside the 3, and then a penalty takes it back and then makes it a field goal. That was a great play by Pierre.
Yeah, it saved 4 points, and then Bush got a sack, and they go backwards. So the defense stepped up, but it started with him not giving up on a play. All right, let's do some quick stuff here. These are decisions, and Jeff, I'll start with you on this one. I want to bring it up because it's a pet peeve of mine. End of the first half, 1:37 on the clock. Steelers have 2 timeouts. Yeah, they're deep in their own territory, but it looked to me like they didn't know what they wanted to do. As a result, they left 1 timeout on the table, and to me, why not go for it? Why does it have to be this passive or, make a play? At one point, they took a timeout.
If this was a high-flying Steelers offense, I'd agree with you. But they had some positive plays. They had a couple of chunk plays. They're waiting to see if they could get some type of splash play where then they would make it worth their while because they didn't want to punt and give Denver an opportunity. I actually think in that regard, I like the call.
I felt like they just wanted to kind of get in the locker room, but
that's a lot of time,
I never like going into your locker room with a timeout in your pocket and when you have the ball offensively. It feels, unless you're pinned on your 2, Bob, and somebody's just letting you run it out. I lean toward agreeing with you. I would have liked to have seen some more push to try to do something offensively.
Any other situation, any other year, they're lining up 4 wide and they're going for it, and they're going to probably score because they practice that nearly every day in practice. But I think that they just didn't want a bad taste in their mouth going into halftime right there. They played a really good first half, and if something fluky would have happened, then it could have just turned really. I think he was just playing it very conservative. I'm kind of critical of Tomlin on some of his time management and some of the other things he does. But I think in that instance, in that case, in that time of the game, that was probably the right decision.
All right, I have time for just this, and that's an early look at next week. Seattle comes here. They have some extra rest, but they also don't have Russell Wilson. Colin, this is a golden opportunity for the Steelers to get to 3-3 with a bye week gearing up for Cleveland. How important is it? Can they win that game? Should they win that game?
They should win that game. Seattle's playing without one of the best quarterbacks that we know in this sort of time frame right now. They absolutely should win that game. It's a national audience. It's at home. It's a Sunday night game. I don't see why the Pittsburgh Steelers and now their newfound running game, why they should not win this football game, Bob.
I agree with you, Colin, 100%. And that was even when Russell Wilson was in there. This defense is awful from the Seahawks. Their running game's not very good. If you win this game, where do you go then? 3-3 at the time? Is that what there would be? Well, then you got a bye week, Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland up there is going to be tough. Then you got Chicago and Detroit. And before you know it, you're midway through the season, a game above 500, and things all of a sudden turn around. That's why this game was very important. Next week's going to be very important. I mean, you get out of that stretch there above 500 where you started, then all of a sudden maybe you have the opportunity to sneak into the playoffs.
Remember the Legion of Boom? This is a Legion of Stink. It's a horrible Seattle offense, or defense rather, and they're going to have an offense without their star. So this is a game you have to get. If you get this game, you might get yourself back into the talk or get into at least some playoff scenarios, or at least in your mind think that way with the game at Cleveland. You lose this game, I don't know how you recover, because this is one you got to get.
I agree, especially at home. Again, you can't go 1-3 at home. Plus, we saw today that the Bengals lost in a field goal nightmare kind of game for both sides, and then Cleveland lost in a wild shootout. And anything can happen in this crazy AFC North. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Penguins. They open up play, and they're on the road against Tampa Bay, minus 2 of their big stars. We'll talk about what the season looks like for them next.